Welcome to Layer the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, the 10 heaviest, most metal Van Halen songs. I do not consider Van Halen to be a metal band. To me, they are one of the greatest hard rock bands of all time, but for me, they're not metal. But there is a lot of heavy Van Halen songs, and I thought it would be fun to kind of go through and pick what I considered to be the most metal sounding, the heaviest Van Halen songs. And for me, a lot of it is the riffing and everything, but sometimes it's just the mood of the song. And, Eddie Van Halen, one of the greatest, if not the greatest guitar players of all time, he had a really heavy sound. His brown sound was very warm, but it had a lot of power to it. So I thought it would be fun to put this list together. Now, all my picks landed up from the David Lee Roth era. And there's two reasons for that. One, I don't really like the Sammy Hagar era or the Gary Cherone album. I do have 5150 on vinyl. I did kind of jump around through the Sammy Hagar albums trying to see if I could find something, but nothing jumped out at me. I didn't have the strength to go through and listen to all the Sammy albums and the Gary Cherone album. I just didn't have the energy to do that. And there were enough songs from the David Lee Roth era that I was able to put these 10 together. So they all land from the David Lee Roth era. Okay, going to start with number 10 and kind of work our way up to what I consider to be the heaviest Van Halen song. All right, at number 10 is from their last studio album, A Different Kind of Truth, with David Lee Roth, of course, comes back. I've never done a video on this channel. I've done a bunch of Van Halen videos. I'll link them in the description down below. I should do a video on this album at some point, but there's things I like and there's things I don't like about this album. But the song Chinatown is actually a pretty heavy song. There's actually a number of songs that are fairly heavy on this album, but I went with Chinatown because the main riff in the verse and the way Alex is playing his drums, he's very aggressive. Like, it's a very fast riff. The drumming is really kind of over the top, and it gives it a lot of, just makes it really heavy. It just makes it sound like almost like a Motorhead type of thing, the way they're just driving along really hard and fast. The chorus of the song brings the heaviness factor down a little bit, but I went with it because of the verse. And just the drums and the guitar and the bass too. And it's got that crazy like finger tapping intro. And then at the end, it's like the guitar and the bass double each other doing the tapping thing again. Really cool song. Okay, number 9 for me from the second Van Halen record, the opening track, You're No Good. This is a cover song. I always felt it was kind of a strange opening number on the album because it's very kind of moody, and this one gets on my list here because of the mood of the song. It starts off with that weird kind of bass intro. He's got like an effect on his bass and just the way it pulses along, and when the chorus kicks in and the guitar gets real heavy, the verses drop down, and it's just sort of a very moody, kind of almost creepy song, and it's a very kind of strange song to open up an album. I would expect a song like this to be a little bit deeper in the album, but I think it's really cool, and just the mood of the song puts it on my list here. Okay, number 8 for me is from Women and Children, and I went with And the Cradle Will Rock. It starts with that Hammond organ through his amplifier. I forget how he got that sound, but the main riff in it is really heavy. The chorus is really big, and it's mostly just that main riff that's very, very big and very metal-like, almost like, I can almost hear like Tony Iommi playing a riff like that. All right, number 7. Maybe this is one of the heavier Van Halen albums. Let's say this. I would put this and Fair Warning as probably the heaviest ones. And I went with, for number 7, Atomic Punk. Just the mood and the energy of this one, the way Dave sings this song, the way he's like screaming up really high, and it's just really fast and kind of aggressive. And I love the way Eddie throws in all those crazy fills and everything. So number 7, Atomic Punk. Number 6, from Diver Down. There's not a lot of heavy stuff on this one, but I went with Intruder, the little instrumental that precedes Pretty Woman. And it's just this kind of weird song with Eddie playing these like noises, and there's these like where he hits these low notes and everything, and he's hitting these big chords and everything. It just has this really weird kind of strange mood to it, and it's a real funny kind of contrast the way that song is just really out there and just weird instrumental, and then it goes into Pretty Woman. And I love there's a spot in it where Eddie does this like squeal where he just goes up really high on the neck, and there's all this like these feedback noises. It's just a really weird, heavy tune in my opinion. All right, number 5, maybe the heaviest Van Halen album, Mean Streets. I went with Sunday Afternoon in the Park, another instrumental, and this one, it's mostly like that weird keyboard sound. I don't know if he's like running it through some kind of effect, like a wah-wah pedal or something, but it's just so weird and so strange sounding. And the way that riff moves around, it's very just like weird sounding and kind of heavy and dark sound. I remember hearing this one as a kid and just thinking that was like, oh, it was so strange. And the way it slows down at the end, or the note keeps getting lower and lower to bow, bow, bow. You know, it's just such a weird, kind of odd, creepy sounding song. So that makes my list at number 5. Number 4 from 1984, I went with the last cut on this album, House of Pain. The verse riff in this song is very metal. You know, you very rarely hear Eddie play something just like that kind of like chugging kind of. It sounds like something George Lynch would do with Dawkins later on. It's very metal. He's just like chugging along on that like one note kind of riff, and this is like very minor sounding. So House of Pain from 1984. Okay, number 3, we're going to go back to, I said Mean Streets earlier. The name of the album is Fair Warning. And we've got number 3 for me is Unchained. And just because it's just that down tune riff, man, he's got his low string tuned down, and when he plays that opening riff and he's chugging on his low string, it's just so heavy. When the whole band kicks in, man, the way it just chugs along is just awesome. So mainly that main riff is really what does it for me, the way it's down tuned and just super heavy. Okay, number 2 is from the first album. And I went with On Fire. This is just a killer riff to this one, man. The harmonics and stuff that he plays, the way he just moves around. It's kind of like Atomic Punk. It has that same kind of energy, and it's got these sort of dissonant like notes that he's playing, and all the fills again and everything. And again, the chorus in this one with those super high background vocals and stuff, and Dave screeching up really high. Super cool. Just that main riff is just so heavy, so awesome. All right, this is probably why I called this album Mean Streets earlier on. It's because my number 1 is Mean Streets. That opening tapping thing that Eddie does is just so cool, and that main riff of the song is just, oh, it's just awesome, man. And Dave's delivery in it and kind of lyrics in the song are kind of gritty and a little dark and everything. And I love when the song sort of drops down, this is Mean Street, you know. Just so it's really just on the way to that main riff there is just absolutely killer. One of my favorite Eddie Van Halen riffs. So, okay, there you go. My 10 most metal, heaviest Van Halen songs. Let me know what you think of my picks, and let me know what some of your picks would be in the comments down below. Make sure you check out my other Van Halen videos. Until we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.